Hey guys, and welcome back to the Warwick F1 show. This is episode 20. We've hit the big 2-0 of season 5. I'm your host Anwar, and in this one we're going to be delving into what could possibly happen at the last Spanish Grand Prix at the Catalonian circuit for at least some time. I'm once again joined by 3 guests. I'm joined by Katch, Lucy and Daniel, so thank you guys all very much for coming on. Now, I want to preface this entire weekend by saying that there is some change, technical change. So, Daniel, I'm going to hand it to you. Can you give me the lowdown on what's happening in this technical directive?
I can describe in more detail than you'd like what's going to happen with the new technical directive.
Please do, because I don't understand it.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so front wings flex, right, as a result of aerodynamics. We know that. They flex on the straights to reduce drag, and then they kind of bounce back into position in the corners to increase downforce. But that flexing is kind of frowned upon in Formula 1. It's kind of seen as a dodgy way to get around the rules, even though it's basically what they're going to be doing next year with active aero on the front wings anyway. So, new for the Spanish Grand Prix as of Wednesday the 28th of May, front wings are only allowed to flex vertically by 10 millimeters instead of 15 millimeters, which it was before, and that's when a 100 kilogram weight, which is 1,000 newtons of force, is applied to both sides of the wing simultaneously, both halves. So only 10 millimeters of flex as opposed to 15. But if only one half of the wing is being forced upon that 100 kilograms, there's a bit more lenience. They're only allowed to flex 15 millimeters instead of 20. So basically, they've cut the flex down by 5 millimeters each way. But there's another, that's a kind of the main part of the rule, but there's another aspect of the technical directive which states that the trailing edge of the front wing flap or plane, of any of the flaps, the elements of the front wing basically, they're not allowed to deflect any more than 3 millimeters now when 60 newtons of force is applied. Before this it was 5 millimeters. So it's basically just to shut teams up, like Ferrari and Red Bull, who complained to to the FIA about McLaren's wings and their legality, and just basically to appease them. It is quite a departure because at the end of last year the FIA was saying, well, it's legal, so we're not really going to change anything about it. But then at the start of 2025 they said, actually we will introduce a new technical directive to change this because we don't like it. Who knows why they changed their mind, but they did.
I think that is quite an interesting point that they originally said no, but it was at the start. We've known about this technical directive for the whole of the season. We're going, into round 8 of the season? They've known about this for 7 rounds. We're going into June. It's not like, sure, this is a change, but teams have had time to prepare. So I think that's where the discussion of, is this actually going to make much of a difference for, like you said, McLaren are the ones that all the complaints have been about, but also Mercedes. That's kind of got a bit more under the radar because Mercedes just aren't performing as well. So yeah, wings do flex, you can't help that, but I just don't know whether it's going to be that impactful. It's not going to chuck McLaren right down the order.
To be honest, I reckon if there are any changes, we've mentioned McLaren and Mercedes, I'm not sure if any other teams have issues with front wings flexing. If there is some change where there's a massive change in performance, I would be surprised if it's some team where we didn't even kind of realise that they had a flexible front wing, like one of the midfield teams who suddenly falls to the background, like to the back, because it happens. Like, I don't see one of the big teams. They've got the budget, they've had the time to prepare, they've got the facilities, and they've got the wind tunnel time to sort this out if there were any issues to begin with. Like, there's admittedly, Formula 1 is a sport of precision, so millimetres are quite, are important. I'm not saying that 5 millimetres isn't like a big deal, but it's still kind of, it's an adjustable thing. It's not, we're going to need to build a whole new front wing to fix this. It's something which you can tinker with the setup you've already got.
I mean, the whole narrative of McLaren is that they have great tyre degradation, and that's their main key
advantage.
Yeah, their advantage, their USP, if you like, of what their team is doing for this year with that car. So I'm not sure this is going to change it. Maybe in the direction of the airflow towards the brake ducts or something to help the cooling, but that's probably clutching at straw. They're probably completely wrong with that. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does feel more like the FIA have decided that it would be easier for them to not have anyone complaining about it, and so they've decided to do something about it, as opposed to them genuinely thinking that there's some big change that needs to be made here.
This feels like they're trying to put the matter to bed, right? Because we've seen so many protests, so many complaints about, and so much discussion around flexi wings from the McLaren, Ferrari as well. I'm pretty sure I have been involved in those discussions, or been like, or at least have played a part or something along those lines, right? So, I guess this kind of gets rid of all of that, and it means that we kind of focus on the racing. I guess that if I asked you guys yes or no, will this impact the kind of pecking order significantly? Would we say yes or no? What's the consensus?
No, the teams have had so long to deal with it that if there were, maybe if we'd been told about this right before Imola and it was being introduced in Spain, I'd say, oh, I don't know, maybe. But they've had the whole season to put upgrades on to change things on their car that upgrade it and make any subtle changes they needed to at the same time. It's not going to have an impact.
Yeah, for the regular F1 people that switch on the TV on a Saturday to watch qualifying and the race on a Sunday, they're not going to know about all of these technical regs.
Yeah.
And they won't see it. I don't think that if they also change the pecking order, if the McLarens are a bit slower than they were the weekend before, they'll probably think, oh, it's probably
track specific.
It's just track specific. It's not
tyre wear or something.
Exactly. It's not going to be this big change, and I think that's a good thing. Because we don't want a big change mid-season, we don't want to whatever happened in 2009 when Brawl were just chucked down, but they have that advantage. Just use that as an extreme example. We don't want these. If loopholes can be found, I think that's great. This is such a minor loophole; it's given them barely an advantage.
I also think, to be honest, if there was a massive change in the pecking order with McLaren dropping down, particularly if it was, which it most likely would be, the teams like Red Bull and Ferrari who were the ones who were sort of complaining about it. Making protests, things like that, if you would, because they would be the ones who would benefit. Admittedly, the F1 fan who doesn't read F1 technical directives to procrastinate doing revision wouldn't really sort of might not care that much, but those of us who do I would be really annoyed if it ended up sort of changing the championship because of it.
Because it's manufactured at that point. That you could then make the case that if McLaren, this isn't going to happen, but let's say McLaren and Mercedes got a lot slower because of this, and they dropped down. It's just manufacturing. Red Bull and Ferrari, they've been able to complain, been able to stop the suppression, and now they're getting more points and they're beating them. That's not what we want. If they've found an advantage, fair play. Go for it.
Yeah, it would create the precedent if you talk loud enough about something that you can 100%. Get what you want.
Do you remember that technical directive that was introduced in Spa 2022, I think it was? And that was lobbied for mostly by Mercedes, and it was about ride height. I think the reason that was introduced was probably for safety reasons, because we saw a lot of porpoising that year, obviously, so it was kind of to fix that solution. This obviously isn't a safety solution, so I'm wondering what the grounds are really to introducing it in the middle of the year like this, and what the consequences would be if it shook up the pack. And like you said, it would be very artificial, which I'm not sure is what we want to see, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see how that develops, and see if I guess we'll get our test this weekend at Barcelona and see do we notice a big change.
Yeah, right? I think most mid-season technical directives, when they happen, which is not, to be honest, very frequent, tend to be to fix problems, be it safety problems or problems with the way in which a regulation's been imposed, and to clarify something. They're not usually to change something because they're not usually to change fundamentally a way in which something's designed.
I think as well on that directive from 2022, there was the side effect that it was generally agreed, the consensus was that it helped Red Bull, and it kind of aided them into that dominant second part of the year, and it kind of hurt Ferrari a little bit, which I think probably put quite a downer on the rest of that season, to be honest, because Ferrari were undoing their own championship. They didn't need a technical directive to kind of put the final nail in the coffin for them.
Yeah, I think the other big discussion, a key discussion point about Barcelona specifically is the fact that this is the last race here. We're going to the Mad Ring from 2026. We don't particularly like the name, let's be honest here. But I guess we've got that to kind of enjoy. So you got that, and then also the other thing is generally tyre degradation is pretty high around here, isn't it?
Yeah, we're using. I know you're ecstatic to hear me talk about some tyres, but yeah, it's that we're using. Previously Monaco and Imola because tyre deg there is low. In case you haven't noticed, people watching Monaco and Imola, but we were using C4, C5, C6, which are the 3 softest tyre compounds. At Spain, we use C1, C2, C3, and it's usually a 2-stop around Spain because tyre deg here is usually fairly high. So, that it will be a different challenge compared to the previous 2, and hopefully tyre wear plays a nice little role.
I think it's good that there's multiple stops because we've always... Sure, we don't do pre-season testing at Spain anymore, but we all know Spain so well. And I think as much as we've complained about the racing at it, because, Catalonia is not the best circuit, it doesn't produce the most exciting races, no one will pretend that, it is still a staple in my opinion. The fact that in the same year, we've had our last race at Imola, we're going to have our last race at Catalonia. I just don't think...
I don't want either of them to go.
I don't think it's a great precedent, to be honest.
We were talking in a news episode, I think, about the new Madrid circuit, and I was like, I don't want to leave Catalonia, and I got kind of some stick for it, but I don't think it's that bad.
I don't think you should, because it is just such a... It's a track where it's got no extremes on either side. I think it's a good middle ground. You don't want the most extreme tracks on the circuit. You want some sort of middle ground where you know how the cars are going to perform, it's going to be a bit average, and having it in the middle of the season is a good kind of stabiliser. Like, if you do well at Spain, then you're just doing well overall. If you're doing poor at Spain, you know that you have stuff to improve upon, and I think it's good to have that stable constant. So the fact we're going to some sort of crazy Madrid street circuit that no one wants, and Carlos Sainz is 100% being paid to promote, is stupid.
Yeah. There's a reason why it's a good testing track.
Yeah, there is. But at the same time, since they've removed that final chicane, which is called the Nissan chicane for some reason, which I learned.
Probably sponsored.
Cool. Maybe.
We learned that very late. We've learned that too late, haven't we?
True. Yeah, I wish you
knew
the
Nissan
chicane after the Nissan chicane has been eradicated.
And
Nissan were awful at promoting that then.
Only remember
nearly after the whole circuit has been abandoned.
Yeah. But I think that did reduce the number of slow speed corners, or the proportion of slow speed corners on the circuit quite a lot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of medium to high content now, which maybe reduces the metricness of being able to compare how your car is to everyone else's. But I think Barcelona, it's been on the calendar since 1991, was the first Spanish Grand Prix. Sorry about that. I just thought I'd drop it in there. We've had some iconic races around there. 1996 in Spain, Michael Schumacher's brilliant victory there. The Mercedes colliding in 2016, for example. So it is a shame to see it go. But, evolution and all that.
For a new era for Formula One, aren't we? Let's actually start discussing the people we expect to be competing at the sharp end of the Formula One grid, right? I think it goes without saying McLaren should be here. For sure. They've been competitive everywhere. There's no reason to suggest they shouldn't be here, right? Are we all in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I guess the discussion is who's going to be the biggest challenger to them, right? We've seen a few races where Verstappen has been able to hang with them and then beat them. We've seen a few races where Ferrari have been within earshot of pole, and pole normally means a race win in Monaco, I guess. And then Merc have sometimes popped up and surprised us. I guess my question to all of you, starting with Katch, is who do we expect to be the closest competitors to the McLarens this weekend?
Max Verstappen.
Reasoning.
He has won the last 3 Spanish Grand Prix. So...
Now you're stealing my stats.
Oh, don't worry, everyone knows. Yeah. I'm assuming you know the stats that Lewis and Max are the only ones that have won the Spanish Grand Prix since 2017.
Yeah.
So it's...
2016, actually.
2016, yeah, my bad.
You're getting the stats wrong.
Oh, I've literally got it in front of me as well. And I
You
said
stole
it.
my stats. I had to get you back on.
I don't get to do stats much. I'm not a stats person. But it's going to be Max. He knows it well. He's got the confidence. After this past weekend, I don't trust Mercedes. After this past year, I don't trust Ferrari. So Max exists.
Lucy, how about you? Do you feel the same?
I feel the Red Bull. There's not been a, in air quotation marks because you can't see it on a podcast, consistent challenger to McLaren. We haven't seen sort of a massive two-team fight, championship battle or anything like that. But out of the people who have been there around McLaren, Red Bull has, by Red Bull I mean Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I love how you're saying Red Bull is, but
it's because, I'm sorry, my brain, when I'm talking about teams, my brain automatically says Red Bull, even if it's just a one-driver Red Bull.
Fair enough.
Red Bull have been the challenger to McLaren most out of anyone, and so statistically I feel like they're the most likely to be there as well, especially considering, you know, while they have obviously taken quite a step back from last year and the years before when they were really dominant, they do still seem to be, their car does well in the same places that it did last year, their car does poorly in the same places that it did last year. In Spain, their car did well in last year, so probably also going to do well this year. Yeah. It's very boring, but it is my answer.
Daniel, any objections to that chain of reasoning that Lucy's given us?
No, not at all. I'm just wondering if it's going to be Miami or an Imola for Max Verstappen, in that he's going to do well in qualifying, maybe even on pole, but then obviously the great tyre degradation that McLaren have, or lack of it, is going to get the better of him in the race, just fall behind them, maybe to easy P3 finish. I don't think he'd make it easy if that were the case. He'd be defending from them pretty hard because he loves Spain. It's a Max Verstappen track, in all honesty. So I can't see him letting go of it too easily, but I think he might not have an option in the end.
Yeah, I think that tyre wear advantage that we've mentioned previously and in previous episodes is something that will play a massive role, particularly when we see in Barcelona we generally do get 2 stops pretty often. We see it around, you know, so...
The Pirelli preview for the Spanish Grand Prix has rated asphalt abrasion as a 4 out of 5 on their scale.
Wait, this is what we love to see. Sorry, that was not sarcastic. That was genuine excitement.
Now, more stops usually equal slightly better race.
Yes,
and also more chance to mess up stops.
Exactly. More chance to mess up stops, more chance for penalties, more chance for fun, and that's what we like.
That's exactly why we watch Formula 1.
Yeah.
Formula 1, if you say it...
The F in F1 stands for fun.
No, if you say F1 but you don't pronounce the F like it's a letter, you just pronounce it fun.
Formula 1.
Oh, that's a stretch.
Formula 1.
There's a thought here and I just can't articulate it. Somebody out there listening to this podcast will know what I mean.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Right, we'll move on. Any more, I guess, factors that we should be considering here? Do we have any hope for Mercedes or Ferrari? I know you don't, Katch. But...
I have hope for Sauber, who are bringing big upgrades this weekend.
And also a new livery.
Right, I don't need to say anything about Sauber, because I've made my thoughts very clear.
Can I ask, like, parameters? You have great hopes for Sauber.
What is a hope for Sauber?
If we're doing well,
a safe P11 finish for Sauber.
Honestly, that's good for them. If they can genuinely finish P11 on pace, fair enough.
Yeah, P11.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Like that's good. We're not expecting things from them. I just wanted to understand.
Or like a safe
hope.
Or like a safe
benchmark.
Yeah, what's the benchmark thinking?
Or like a safe getting out of Q1, but it not being like, oh my god, how did they manage to do that?
Yeah, they genuinely got Q1. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
We're proud of them.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, but we're visually proud of them.
Daniel, is your random prediction? We're proud of Sauber.
No, it should be, shouldn't it? I might change it right now, actually.
Yeah.
Although if they got pace for how good the livery looks, I think they're pretty slow this weekend, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, they do have a special livery.
It's just a lot of squares.
It's not very special. It's not a very special livery. But yeah, we'll swiftly move on because I don't want to talk about this.
They're going quantity over quality with their special liveries. They keep bringing them. We keep not noticing.
Oh, that's better than their normal livery again.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh, Just do your special liveries as your normal liveries, guys.
Yes.
But they're both terrible.
Yeah, but the squares
You're
at least.
comparing a turd to a polished turd. Is the way I'd put it.
I wouldn't say it's quite
Okay.
turdish. There's a problem if your turds are neon green.
No, I wasn't saying it usually looks like. Swiftly moving on.
I don't think one of them's polished. I think one of the turds is just really bad, and one's just standard.
I'm not going to ask what's the difference between a bad turd and a regular turd, but
Neon green!
Radioactive turd.
right, we're going to stop this.
We've all gone insane because
yeah.
of Monaco.
Cool. Let's move on to our predictions, and we've got 4 sets of predictions because we have a guest here,
Whoa.
and that means lots of opportunities for us to make howlers. So, Katch, you want to take us away with your poll and top 5? Who are you predicting?
There is zero surprise that Paul is Norris. There is zero surprise here.
Colour my surprise.
Yep. To be fair, I could have gone Verstappen, but then if Verstappen got pole, Norris, he would just take out Norris when Norris tried to overtake him, so they both just DNF. So we'll go Norris pole. We'll go for top 5.
Yes, top 5.
Norris win. I've got to.
Who could have thought that, guys?
Who could have?
I never
guessed?
knew that.
I have never been more shocked in my life.
Come on, so I had to do it.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be a disservice
To the podcast
To
and
the
its
podcast.
legacy.
to me, to the society, to all of the fans out there if I didn't.
What fans?
All the fans. My gran listens to this podcast, so the fans, yes, my gran. Big up my gran. You know I like to predict Norris number 1, so thank you. Right.
Who's following Norris?
What? Who's following Norris?
Who's
Me.
going after? No, not.
Everyone's going after him.
My
Everyone's going after
God.
him at the moment. Right. Norris is going to win the race and he's going to have a great dominant race. That's the prediction.
Cool.
Number 2 is Verstappen because it is Spain. And
Yep.
he's up there. Number 3 is Piastri. He'll have a decent weekend, but again, be behind Norris. I think McLaren are going to keep the thing of whoever's a pole kind of gets a bit of preference at this point
Yep.
because that's naturally how it works. 4 is Hamilton because I think he's going to do well. And 5th is Russell because again, for reasons that I don't want to predict 2 Ferraris up there because I don't have faith in Leclerc. I just think something's going to go wrong this weekend. It'll just be chaos.
Cool. Let's move on to Lucy next. I'm expecting a total of 1 point from your prediction this weekend. So
Those are rookie numbers. We're going for 0.
I like the ambition.
Wait.
We're going for either 0 or like a complete clean sweep of everything right. I've said Piastri going to be on pole. Think McLaren will be on pole. I've just happened to say him.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Katch, please don't kill me. I have said Norris P1. I'm not going to elaborate on that because we will get to that later. I've said Verstappen P2 because it's Spain and I think, it's Spain. That's it. P3, if I keep predicting it, it'll finally
Don't
happen.
dare
Yes,
do
Albon's going to be in P3.
Oh, for God's
This
sake.
happened with Piastri. I kept saying he would be in P3 and then he got 2 consecutive P3. So if I do it with Albon, he'll eventually get it.
Right,
Also,
guaranteed 0.
this is where we get to the niche historical facts.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So the first Grand Prix, as we've mentioned, was in 1991 in Barcelona, and that, admittedly, I could have said he was going to win because that was won by Nigel Mansell in a Williams. I've not said that he's going to win, but I have said that we're going to bookend this time of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya with Williams doing well. Arguably, we can say I've also tried to go for that by saying that a British driver's going to win as well, but I think that's maybe a bit of a stretch given that I hadn't thought of that when I got this far. But there we go.
Love it.
P4, Piastri. I think he's still going to finish the race and get points, but again, we're going to elaborate on that later.
Foreshadowing.
And then P5,
Don't you dare.
it's Carlos Sainz.
Way.
I genuinely have more faith in Williams than both Mercedes and Ferrari combined.
Valid. I did consider putting Williams in my top 5. But the thing is, if we're saying that Lucy's bad at predictions, then this is not looking good for me because a lot of mine are similar.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's not looking good for either of you. I'm going to say put it that way.
Nah, I think it's going to look bad for you guys.
Listen,
It won't.
listen, at Imola, I got the best prediction score on this podcast. I beat you 2 that week.
You got 1 win. Well done, you. Next. Daniel, come on. Let's get some real predictions, please.
You want? Oh, I'm afraid they're not. They might not be real come the end of the weekend. But it starts off pretty sensibly. Pole position is going to Max Verstappen. He's only got 1 pole around Barcelona, surprisingly.
That feels low for him, man.
Well, it is, considering him and Lewis Hamilton have won every Grand Prix since 2016. And he's going to win again on Sunday.
Oh.
Yep. I'm sticking to the pole to win conversion for Max Verstappen. P2 will be Lando Norris, because he is driving the better of the as the McLaren drivers right now.
That scored him in the last 2, right? So
yes, exactly. Piastri P3, which will be his third P3 finish in a row.
Meaning that the championship would be level in this.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
Which is
good.
I like that.
That's
would be exactly the same result as Imola in this case.
Yep, so far.
Yeah. So far. And then, for the third weekend in a row, I've gone for Carlos Sainz P4.
Let's go!
Yay! I wasn't going to. I was thinking I need some points.
You just did it to wind me up.
Well, I did that primarily, but secondarily, secondly, that's it. It is the 55th running of the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. What driver number is Carlos Sainz Jr.? 55.
This is like a throwback to the Carlos Reutemann.
Yeah, I don't know why that means he's going to finish P4. I just wanted to say
P5.
There's a lack of continuity.
All the fives.
I'll let you change it if you want to be consistent.
I'll swap them.
Yeah, cool.
My P4 driver now is Charles Leclerc. Ooh, actually, that might not be a good idea.
Well, you've said
it now.
Set in stone. I'm going for it. I'm committing Leclerc.
Why is that not a good idea?
Because they're back to having high-speed corners at the circuit again.
Yeah, but if you predict Charles Leclerc P5, then you can only get points for 5 and 4. But if you predict him P4, then you can get points for 3, 4, and 5.
But I don't think there's no chance he's finishing third. I think.
No chance.
I like
wow,
that.
quote.
Like
no
that.
chance.
Wait, if someone finishes
no chance.
Short or something.
Wait, if someone finishes P6, do you not get points?
No, you do.
Do you?
Absolutely. If they finish in 5th, if you put them in 5th and they finish in 6th, it's a point.
Oh, okay. I didn't realise maybe.
Sainz P6 is quite. I think that's on actually. I might be on for a point with that one.
Yeah. I think actually are.
I'm not on with the point for all of mine.
Right, Anwar.
Cool. Right, so I've gone for a Lando Norris pole. I think it's a fair assessment, and I also think he'll lead a 1-2 between the two McLarens. I just think that with the nature of the circuit being high tyre wear, they're going to be able to stretch a good advantage against other teams who just don't have that same tyre wear maintenance. I guess, I don't know what the word is, but we'll continue. I think the point's made. I mentioned that Piastri is finishing second. I do think that. Third, I've gone for Max Verstappen. I think we've kind of explained his record around here is pretty good, so it makes sense. I'm surprised no one has put Russell in 4th. He's given us so many points by putting him in the top 5. So
I put him in 5th.
Yeah, but these two haven't.
And
delusion.
It's Mercedes.
Yeah, delusion.
We've just seen Mercedes have an awful Monaco weekend.
Yeah, but I don't think
recency bias.
It's not going to be as bad. I wanted to put Williams up there and I had to get rid of someone. It was Mercedes.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And in 5th, I have gone with Charles Leclerc. There's no interesting prediction here. There's no Aston Martin that I'm throwing in. Because
that worked so well.
That worked brilliantly for you.
So those are my top 5. Let's kind of go through all the DNFs and random predictions now, shall we? So, Katch, who's your DNF and what's your random prediction? We will judge, by the way, if this isn't random enough.
Okay, DNF is Ocon, just because...
That doesn't... The DNF doesn't have to be random. We should...
I chose the driver. Random prediction, 3 drivers spin in the race by their own accord.
Oh, so like not getting hit by someone.
They just spin.
That is definitely... I will let that be. That's
but 3 separate drivers. The same driver can't do it twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that random enough?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought
for sure.
they've got to spin.
We'll give you a bonus point if they do it simultaneously.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I'll get that. I'll tell the teams to do donuts at the end.
Yeah, that's not counted.
No. Because that wouldn't be in the race.
That would be meddling and manipulating the results for the F1 show.
You can only get away with that. You can only get away with that if you're MBS.
Well,
I think that's disqualification for the season, isn't it, Anwar?
That's what I.
That's not going to happen.
That's what it says in the prediction constitution, isn't it?
The sporting regulations of the Warwick F1 show.
Predictions, yes.
Lucy, who's your
DNF? He is apparently, according to his own metric, the unluckiest F1 driver. It's Fernando Alonso.
This is so consistent.
Aston Martin, maybe, who knows, by some miracle, Alonso will be leading his home Grand Prix and then his Aston Martin will do what it does best and decide to just give up.
Yeah.
Random, please don't hurt me, Katch. The McLarens are going to have a collision. I'm saying neither of them are going to DNF, but I'm saying that the way my predictions have worked is that I'm saying that it will be presumably for the lead, because I said Piastri is going to be on pole and Norris is going to win. I'm predicting that Piastri will probably come off worse out of that, probably have to make a pit stop to change something, but not DNF worthy, and then we'll eventually climb back up to 4th, but you know.
Yeah. At some point they're going to collide.
Yeah, if I keep predicting it, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Albon thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad that you're consistent with your logic.
Yeah.
I mean, even Zach Brown thinks they're going to collide.
Every one of them other things are going to collide, and I think
makes
that's
sense.
Not bold assumption.
They're actually close in on that with that move that Norris pulled on Piastri. Like centimetres.
Yeah, that was a very good move.
It was.
So good on him. Daniel, what is your DNF and random prediction?
Okay, so who I actually think is going to DNF is not what I've gone for, because I've said that Bortoletto is going to DNF. That's my official prediction.
Yep.
Okay.
But thanks to the Warwick F1 show sporting regulations,
which are well known and well
documented,
publicised,
publicly available.
Definitely a legally binding document.
Indeed.
Yes, available on the FIA website, of course. I actually think that nobody is going to DNF this race, because the past 2 years there have been no DNFs in Spain, and the last time there was actually a retirement due to contact in the race or damage at all on the car was 2019, when Stroll and Norris came together actually. But since then it's only been reliability failures, or there have just been no DNFs. So I think it's that kind of race where everyone knows the track so well, they know how to race at Barcelona, and so they don't take so many silly risks, and they will all get safely to the checkered flag, but Bortoletto.
Cool, I'm going.
Yeah.
Officially Bortoletto. Cool.
And the random prediction is boring, but I think you can call it a loophole because it's rare, but I think it's going to come in this time. I believe it. It's Alonso points. Lucy's wrong, basically. Very contrasting predictions here.
To be honest, given my performance this season, predictions-wise, that's not a bad shout. Given just go for the opposite of whatever I've said.
And can I just be technical on the wording? Alonso points. So is that P9 or does P10 count?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go for P9 and above.
P9
like
and
that.
above.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that we're getting very specific with
You've
the
gotta
vocabulary.
be.
Yeah,
We've got to make sure that they can fit into our legally binding document, which we definitely have.
Well, I have it to hand actually. I've got it in my bag right now.
Anyone wants to see it, just send us an email and we'll send it to you.
I will not respond.
We're gonna make Anwar type it up and then send it over.
ChatGPT one. Cool. Let's move on to my DNF and random prediction, which I have planned meticulously. Clearly, I'm going to say that a DNF once again. Surprise, it's a rookie.
Oh my gosh. We may have to ban you from predicting rookies as the DNFs because you just go for that every week.
I've gone Isaac Kadjar.
But there's so many rookies.
What?
I think Isaac Kadjar's going to DNF. I think,
But on such a
unfortunately,
good weekend.
yeah, I just think someone's got to pop the bubble, pop the balloon.
And it's you.
I'm the right guy with the pin.
Yeah.
So I will. Pop
You're just
that.
helmet marker in disguise.
And my random prediction is, and I guess you guys need to decide if this is random enough. Yuki Tsunoda top 8.
Yes.
Yes, that's random enough.
Yeah.
Dear Lord, something would have mad happened otherwise.
Or maybe he's just decided to be good at driving.
Maybe the car works. Who knows?
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I'd
I
like
just
to see it, yeah.
really don't think it's going to happen.
We don't have a lot of faith in that second Red Bull, do we?
No, I don't have a lot of faith in Red Bull as an organisation.
It is cursed.
Yes.
Both the
Oh.
organisation and the second seat specifically.
Speaking of Red Bull, opinions on the Daniel Ricciardo teaser that he's coming back.
What?
What?
When so F1 have an official partnership with Pepsi, and the silhouette of the driver is exactly Daniel Ricciardo, who's in that commercial.
Where would he? Cadillac?
Yeah, exactly.
Question
People are saying
mark?
Cadillac. Maybe we get Checo and Ricciardo in Cadillac.
I've seen a video
That
though,
would be
of
real funny,
a
actually.
fan posing with Daniel. I hate to burst your bubble.
Yeah, I
I
know,
don't
I've
want to
seen
pin here, but yeah, the fan asked Daniel Ricciardo Cadillac, and he's like, "Nah, I'm done."
I've seen him on his farm in a tractor, man. He's chilling.
Frank Herman, you mean?
No.
What?
Ricardo.
No,
Oh.
Ricardo's Instagram post.
Yeah.
Just the caption, Frank Herman.
Yeah.
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 I forgot the text on it.
That's fine. Don't worry.
I just remember the tractor. But that brings us to the end of
just like the RB.
just way. No, he's not that bad though.
The RB when he was driving.
Yeah, it was pretty horrible with him. That brings us to the end of the big the 20th episode of the Warwick F1 show in 2025. I want to thank again all my guests for coming on. So Daniel, Lucy, Katch, thank you guys all for coming, and we will see you for the review of the last Barcelona Circuit de Catalunya Grand Prix, which should be coming out at some point next week. So thank you guys for listening or watching, and we'll see you then. Goodbye.